So there are some constructs that are over uh, certain areas of, if you want to say, scholarly thought, but because it's not given any credulity or any, it's not given any credibility, you know, uh, and that's where you get this push for like who matters, like do I matter, does your voice matter, and everything. It's not. It's because you're stuck at a level where it's not afforded you that if you don't give credit to the better analytical systems or the better ways to get perspective, like the better format, then it should be obvious why you don't get it. It should be obvious. And if on one end you're emotionally bankrupt and pushing for people in social media and Unitarian modalist argumentation, I've heard it called before, then you're also trying to exploit the same aspect of yourself. Like you're also capable of taking advantage of desperate, people who want to heal, and people who are have who are actually like at a point where they could use the perspective, that the better focus. And so it's like because whatever was entrained on us in the 80s and everything, I was participating in Coomerism. Like I was being a Coomer in a sense. Then when I redressed myself and then addressed those things and tried to change them, that's the only time when you can see the conspiratorial layer, because it's petty to try to go in on that conspiratorial layer without the perspective that you need. And so like recently the Surgeon General is going back over the construct and reinforcing the the limited way to get the perspective that you need, in the same way that they do cover-ups and they do artificial narration, narrative, like how they try to prep everything. It's the same way. So there's parallels in other different uh, lies, but some of those lies pertain to different things. It's kind of hard to just bust everything open. But that's essentially what you are doing when you turn on to this, like a better way to get the perspective. All right, so let me get into that, right? Because the Surgeon General is talking about an epidemic of loneliness and depression. But the same people that are paying into the alienation are the ones that seem to be get their cue, and they know when to pick at you. So what's the point? You know what I mean? Why don't you? It's like, unless you're just trying to propagate the lies, then you could take a sit down. Because I already remembered, like, okay, the first time that there was this scrommet thing where people would smoke some weed and then they would have the thyroid gland malfunction and they would scream and throw up at the same time. You know what I mean? Most recently, they've been coming out talking about this subject again, and they're leaving out the whole thing about the thyroid and about how the THC molecule was biologically changed. Okay, they did alternation to this strain of this plant to make a more powerful THC molecule. And that was why it was overriding the thyroid and why people were screaming and throwing up. But so is it about the fact that we care about people screaming and throwing up? Because we're just gonna talk about this like next time we bring it up, and it's gonna be like, oh, it's not, it has anything to do with those growing operations where people like Soros and Bill Gates buy this land and leave their Terminator seeds hanging out of the fucking this. They just like the fact that it takes longer for the fucking plants to stratify and to balance back out, like, you know what I mean? And at one point in time, I thought it was a good idea to have a seed bank. Now you can imagine why it's nefarious, because there are causing other crops not to germinate, and then or finding something about those crops that had been grafted in by germinating with those crops inadvertently, and then they took a patent and claimed the ownership of those crops because they said they stole the patent. Look. How do I tie this all back in to the Surgeon General talking about depression and anxiety? It's like, you just don't they, somebody somewhere deserve more depression and anxiety when you can omit and deceive people about scrommet? You know what I mean? About a thyroid, like why someone's thyroid, like why you actually screaming and throw up. If I matter, then I would think that somebody who's screaming and throwing up would take my advice, and they would know why and what they did, and it wasn't because they smoked too much weed or who did what to them. The Surgeon General, okay, he said there's an epidemic of there's an epidemic of depression and anxiety, but those depression and anxiety are made up construct words. I'm not saying you don't feel something. It's that you're divorcing yourself from allowing you're not allowing yourself to feel it, so you cannot divorce yourself from that feeling. Because it's uncomfortable, you keep pushing it off. It's uncomfortable to become receptive to other people. And what you feel when you think you're depressed is you are becoming receptive. You're detecting distance. That's what you call loneliness. You're saying, I've sensed distance. That's what's actually real. You're not lonely. Your senses are working the right way that they're supposed to work. There's something driving distance. People are pushing away other good people. That's what is fucking up their life. And there are people that you care about that are getting anathematized and surrounded by a bunch of weirdos. Because of their explanation of why it's no big deal that they are being anathematized in the first place is attracting all those people that want to get a cosign and victimize them. They want to take advantage of the cosign. They might even love them, but they want to victimize and control them. So loneliness is detecting distance. Depression is becoming receptive, and anxiety is detecting space. And the reason why people can feel uncomfortable about or get social anxiety because they detecting space is because the Coomerism, or like the consumerism. They can detect people who are going to try to dock them. Docking. And they'll be like, I got a bad feeling about this. And instead of looking at the reason why, like you have a legitimate reason to have a bad feeling about that. So be like, oh, you could, there's things you could get help. We could, like, and it'll go, you know what I'm saying? So that's a bad word. Help is too fucking soon. Help is too early and prompt. That's how it become a bad word. Then you want to distance yourself from that. You don't want people assuming that you're the help. Like, you know what I'm saying? Why would I go to a function and be around Hillary Clinton? She's not going to listen to my concerns. She's gonna confuse me with the help. She's gonna say like, "Is he the help?" Like, oh fuck this bitch. It's not because of political reasons I don't like Hillary. It's because I don't work for Hillary. That's all. No, nobody does. How you know this is not this is the wicked ham beast? They just fucking with Shanghai, motherfucker, to Bengali. Okay, you would drop to a fucking trap door in a fucking saloon and pop out on the other side of fucking Libya and slave market. If you think that contributing your you know what I mean, like who like to contribute to her platform, she doesn't know why she's not 50 points ahead. Like, come on, people, like, I don't get it. It's like, and there's actually people, I can assure you, that while you're thinking this is no problem, everybody ought to see through this bullshit, there's actually people that are gonna be like, hey, come on, like you know what I mean? You matter, like doing all this fucking playing up to the it. They're just trying to promote the it factor, and then they have this shiny title with this lofty fucking like this lofty title that's been like nurtured and prepared and been built up, and fucking nobody won it, because that is somebody who, when they sit in that chair, is going to be persecuted through a time immemorial. And they were fucking building this up for somebody to fucking sit in this chair and like throw Joe in the volcano, because they're like they like to throw their friends under the bus. That's what they only thing they know and believe in. So it's like also too is their god, and every time they come out with a new variant of a fucking whatever it was that gave them a hope that they thought that they could fucking hide behind in a mask, and you know what I mean, like gave them a hope that they could what's it called, bludgeon the fucking naturally disarming characteristics of somebody with a like a kind of a loveliness to them, where it's like certain things come naturally to them too, where they're outside of this fucking epidemic of fucking depression and loneliness. You know what I mean? That the same little motherfucking people that need the therapy and are not getting the help are also part of this push to fucking self-isolating children and old people and shit like that. You're fucking being played, sucker. You fucking being played, sucker. Don't look at me. Don't look at me and be like, oh, you don't want to fucking support the people in Ukraine and fight the fucking Nazis, Russians down to the last Ukrainian. It's up to them if they want to fucking do that. It's up to, and you're not going to get the perspective from them. You're going to get the perspective from the fucking actors. From these fucking, like, I don't know if they're choosing these like young male model, like, you know, with the beard and handsome to go out there and fucking set up sniper position first, whether, you know, while they try to build a new demilitarized zone, because we need another no-fly zone and more demilitarized zones in the world. You know, if you can appreciate why we need that, then you're on another shit. You're on some other class tier shit, huh? I mean, that's not even for us privy society to even fuck with it, because you gotta imagine, like, excited about all the fucking goofy movies and fucking bread and circus shits. You know what I mean? You can already kind of discredit our intellect and lump us in there with the, it's like they're trying to cash out our social security and get it to take fucking dirt on our hands or something like that on behalf of your acquiescence and co-signing on to wholesale murder out of sight, out of mind, wrapped up and marketed in a pretty bow tie and a package. It was, you know what I'm saying? That's how you get you to fucking accept it on one side, and then when the energy comes back around from the karma taking its time now, because it's just so many people on the earth, it takes a long ass time. You're gonna get caught lacking. You can be confused. You don't know what the fuck this is all about. You know what I mean? But we all paid into taxes, and we were all Coomer, a little bit of Coomer. So the way to get out of this, the same thing as long as way is of not allowing the colloquialisms to enslave your mind, is just to let just to get the real meaning behind what people are saying, and to let their use of colloquialism slide, so that you can just stop changing the real meaning of whatever it is they're trying to say, you know? Because they're not, you know what I'm saying, everything is presented to us in a way that seemed like it's trying to enslave you. You know, because we keep running into the same collapsible curriculum that doesn't, it's like a keep coming around, and then we have to assume that the next lesson is something that we have first nature, that you're never supposed to get this first nature. It was always first nature. It was only these division creating politicians that set up shop and create this disconnect in the first place. That was for them. It was always first nature for us. The shit that they're toggling with and acting like we gotta figure out, we gotta understand this by tomorrow and shit, next week and a year down the road and shit, they're gonna pop up like, we still don't fucking know this. Hey, why don't we understand? Why don't we get this? It's because you're fucking playing. Every time you see an opportunity to play with people's sentimentality and their sensibilities, to just go in on that one little thing. And now everybody, we talk about this all the time like we don't know. So it's just making everybody dumb and retrograde. It's just making us all fucking retrograde. It can be and the only way that you can be intellectual is to give somebody a break. The only way that you can actually contribute to a platform and to actually be a progressive is to give somebody a fucking break from the construct, to allow them to experience what discomfort that they are feeling, to just force it and to never feel that way again. That's it. Somebody is just going to be the master of standing in the wrong place at the wrong time. And probably a dumb Unitarian modalist that was setting up the emotional grift in the first place, that got all those humanitarians together under the Skittles flag. And it's the same motherfucker that they're gonna turn back to when they want to question the one that sold them the confusion, to try to challenge whoever is rocking the boat, and he's gonna give the apologetics that doesn't working for him. It's like he's more. It's not apologetics. It's making excuses for whatever it is, Fabian, that they have to fucking promote, which is basically petulant spirits and demanding scholarship on behalf of failed institutions and shit like that. But you don't actually get anything from raging against the machine. Like, I mean, these are all just middle-aged white people who say they're just going to bail you out of jail. They got the ACLU and the Southern Poverty Line. They got all these organizations together to bail Jacobins out of jail. It's like whatever leftover funding from the Bolsheviks, whatever who leftover funding from Rockefeller and the Bolsheviks is still in play long after they are dead, and their power has basically been, it's like been destroyed since World War II, since the annexation of Hungary by Hitler wasn't supposed to annex his allies, and after that, then they burned down. They went too far. Like, there was agreed to, and they consigned Hitler to do that controlled backburn in Europe, to burn back some of their excess industry, to allow the building contracts and everything to revitalize, like a fresh sapling growing from a burned out forest, you know, fresh green coming out of the fucking charred of the fucking forest fire. And he just kept going. He just kept going and going in it. And it's similar. So it's like what you got to be careful when you rail against Putin and rail against these people, because there's some aspect of a Hegelian dialectic going on with their interest in the galvanized, polarized masses, and their push of their modality. It's like a little bit of energy that it gives to push the aristocracy into that fucking category of gratification, where they can, if they don't all reach gratification, then there's a rift and a separation, and then they play on the dichotomy and fucking gravitate towards celebrity and issue statements from these people with the it factor. It only works if everybody believes in the it factor, and then goes looking to these people like they're reputable. You know what I mean? When you are smarter than they are, when you know more than they do, like, what the fuck? They gotta put something, they gotta put a spell or something to make you want a position or a title that nobody wants to buy from them, like a gun with a body on it that nobody wants to buy it.